So between Austintown, Camel, and the overflow that we get here at the urgent care, we've tested a total of just over 1,000, I want to say, probably closer to 1,100. And out of those who are symptomatic, because we did test a lot of first responders who are not symptomatic so that they can return to work and fulfill their duties, we're at about a 20 to 25% positive rate. And we still have data and results coming in today and tomorrow. I'm not surprised or concerned because we do a pretty thorough and in-depth screening with the provider to ensure that we're testing people who need the test. And we're basically testing people who have the typical symptoms that we are seeing for those that are presenting with positive coronavirus tests. And the more we test and the more we speak to patients, the more understanding we have about typical symptoms and also atypical symptoms that are only present in few of those patients. So I'm not really surprised. I think it's to be expected based on how many tests we've done and also the type of patients that we're screening and testing. The majority of our first responders have tested negative. We've had first responders and healthcare providers that have come out of some outbreak areas in the community that have tested positive. But for the most part, based on the amount of first responders that we've tested who were exposed with no PPE, the majority of those have been negative, which is good for the community. Right now, we have increased our staffing volume by 200%, both in providers and in ancillary staff. And obviously, there's a cost to the protective equipment that we use, but we're really not counting right now. I think what we have to do now is get out there, test as many symptomatic patients as we can, and then figure out the numbers later. Obviously, there's an expense, there's a payroll expense, there's a product and equipment expense, all of that. But right now, we're not worried about those numbers. We're going to bring on the staff we need so that we can test everybody who needs tested, and then we'll worry about the numbers when all this coronavirus stuff is past us.
Yeah, there is a fee associated for us to run it as a lab, and it does far exceed what we're charging. But we're not worried about that right now. Our goal here is to take care of the public, control this, and then we'll figure that stuff out later.
I want to say over 1,700 patients that we've telehealth so far since this is all said and done. And we've been able to screen and evaluate who needs tested based on what they do for work, their exposure level, and their symptomology. And in order to do that, we needed the increase in the staffing, and I'm pleased to say that we've been able to meet those demands.
But we are also able to provide more testing now because of the supplies. So we do have additional supplies coming in, and we just made arrangements to have supplies coming in on a daily basis with a group out of Michigan. So we feel more than confident that we'll be able to keep up with this demand. Nothing's been put in stone for dates, times, and locations, but we are talking to, the city of Warren, Niles. Actually, we're talking to Medina and a couple other locations in the state of Ohio. So, they're reaching out to us, and we're trying to, fill that need, fill that void, and accommodate them where we can help, treat their patients as well. So different locations are in place.
That's absolutely right. So people can still utilize the telehealth model, but if they can't make it to the actual drive-through site, they're able to come, evening hours to the physical location of the urgent care here in Liberty and be tested, actually get the physical swab. In addition to that, if they can't make a telehealth visit or if they don't have the capabilities to get on a FaceTime call or use the online technology we have, they can be seen face-to-face curbside here at the clinic as well.
We are going to be focusing on helping the local nursing homes over the next week, and that's going to be one of our primary focuses as a team.
I would say that our numbers have steadily been pretty consistent with our symptomatic patients. We're seeing that 20 to 25% on any given day. Obviously, we have influxes when they come from nursing homes and specific outbreaks within certain prisons, certain correctional facilities, that can deter or enhance the numbers. But in general, from a standpoint of the community, we are seeing a consistent probably 20-25% come out of the community members. And I don't see it dropping yet. Now that might change next week, but it's also dependent on where you're testing too. We've had samples from the 5-county area, I'd say 5 or 6 counties. That's not counting West Virginia or the Medina area. So we're testing from a broad area, and I think that what we'd have to do is at some point, actually sit down and look at the data and see where most of this is coming from to try to identify hotspots. And I think that the local health departments are doing that on their own. Our job is to make sure that we give them our positive results as fast as we can and allow them to determine if they can identify outbreak or hotspot areas from that data.
What are some atypical, you mentioned typical and atypical symptoms.
Sure.
What would some examples of atypical symptoms be?
We've been seeing a lot of headaches. We've been seeing a lot of diarrhea. We've been seeing a lot of generalized body aches and fatigue. We've had a few positives with only somebody having body aches and fatigue, severe headache, things like that.
And what are more typical symptoms?
Intermittent or shortness of breath throughout the day at certain times, dry cough, loss of taste and smell is a hallmark symptom that we're seeing in these positive results. I think those are fever, obviously. Those are some of the more hallmark symptoms that we see. We've been very fortunate. When the crisis started, we did whatever it took to acquire the PPE necessary to anticipate a pandemic. So we took to Amazon, we took to eBay, we paid the exorbitant amounts of money to make sure that we had the PPE for our staff, because if it's not safe for our staff, it's not worth it for us to expose ourselves in order to help people. So I think it's important that we're all protected so that we can protect others. The urgent care runs 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday.
For over a century, Farmers National Bank has stood strong. Through booms and busts, peaks and valleys, we've learned to know the seasons and how to grow in each of them. During challenging times, everyone is reminded of the value of solid relationships in both life and business. Farmers, stand strong.